I never heard that story.
When you threw a curveball in the gym,
Yeah, but
yeah,
it hit the wall.
baseball
Hit the wall,
trial.
didn't break a window. It hit the wall.
Oh, I thought the story was
No.
Tell
when
us.
When I was a kid, I started playing the clarinet at age 5. And we rented a clarinet from the school for 50 cents a month. And I took the clarinet like a duck to water. I did not have a great clarinet teacher, and I'll talk about that later. What I used to do is I used to practice. In fact, I practiced so much, my parents told me to stop playing because I played so much. Where most parents, I went into music as a profession, and most parents would tell me they have to almost beg their children to practice, except for a few. I've had a few students who practice very well, or practice great. And the teacher I had really was Miss Osry. She was a vocal teacher, and she was a friend of my mother at that time. And she just took me because my mother went to see her and told her to give me a chance. She did not teach me well about my embouchure. The embouchure for a wind instrument who reads is to be straight across her bottom teeth. She taught me to put it inside. So when I practiced, after a while, it would hurt in there because the teeth would be an impression from the teeth. That wasn't straightened out until I got into high school. The high school band director, Mr. Gersh, was a clarinet player, and he's the one who got me to change from keep putting my lip in my mouth outside. Since then, I just took off, and I really did great. He charged the first lesson I had. My mother gave me $1 in quarters to give him, so I gave him. He wouldn't take it. He said he charges $3 a lesson. So after that, I had $3 from my mother to pay for that. And with that, I went. I didn't go. I tried to make it as a professional musician for the first year. Did not go after high school. Did not go to school, and I finally went to Montclair State for 2 years and didn't do too well there. And I got out. I went into the Army. In the meantime, I had joined the band. There was a Army Reserve band in New Jersey, and I joined that.
You want these or done?
And I activated myself. So I went into the Army and spent 2 years in the Army as a corporal. And while I was in the Army, I went through basic. I took my clarinet mouthpiece with me, not the whole clarinet, just my mouthpiece. And I got to know a couple of guys in the unit, in the basic training unit, knew when my basic training was at Fort Dix, which had a band, and he and I applied to apply for it. And the company clerk told me that our audition was the next day. So I took my mouthpiece the next day, and both of us went over to the band unit and for an audition, a tryout to get in. And I put my mouthpiece on an old Army clarinet, and they said play. I think it was an F minor. An F minor scale, and I said to myself, now it has been about 3 or 4 months where I hadn't thought about music. So what the hell is a F minor scale? So then it dawned on me, and I played it. So consequently, I made the band, and this guy didn't. I was supposed to stay at Fort Dix, which had a band school also with their band. And it came, then what they do after basic, they put you in a room and they tell all the guys where you're going to infantry training, we're going to artillery, you're going to whatever. And they came to my name and they said, you're going to band school, you stay here, which would have been great. I lived 3 or 4 hours away from camp. Every weekend I could have been home if I wanted. So, consequently, I was shipped to Kentucky to Fort Knox, Kentucky, where they have the gold depository. But anyway, after they let us out of the meetings where they told everybody where they were going, the guys came up to me and said to me, "Gee, we didn't know you were a drummer." And I thought to myself, where the hell did they get this idea of a drummer? Then I thought back when the first week or so I was in basic training, they changed commanding generals. So when they do that, they had the whole fort march and review in front of the general. So when we went out to practice marching, our company commander said, "Zamer, go over to the warehouse and bring out the drums." I went over and I got a bass drum, but they didn't have a stick, so I used my fist, and when they marched, I pounded on the drum. That's how they thought I was a drummer. Nobody ever thought I knew I played any other instrument. So then they did it. Then I went home on leave, and I came back, and they put me in charge of taking a group of soldiers to Fort Knox. So we get that, and I didn't know that at the time there was a time change between up here and down there. So I woke everybody up the next morning at 6 o'clock, which was really fun. And the porter was really pissed off at me because I woke everybody up, and woke him up and everybody else. And I remember the train pulling into to Louisville, Kentucky, which is outside. Looking out and seeing that it looked just like from where I came from Morristown, New Jersey. The houses looked the same, the cars looked the same. I was surprised. So I spent, I don't know, about 6 weeks there in band school, and I knew 10 times more than what the instructors knew. So then I was
very modest.
Then I was assigned to Fort Gordon in Georgia, which at that time had 2 bands side by side. And I went in, and they were really the people. Really, the guys in the band would really welcome me with open arms because they wanted somebody who could play. So I was there for a while, and then they closed down the other band. Then what they did is they needed somebody at Atlanta, which was the Third Army headquarters. And I had an MOS, which means the number of the instrument that you played. And the MOS was not for clarinet, but was for saxophone. Unfortunately, I was a very good saxophone player. So me and a trombone player packed our bag, who was also transferred, packed his car, and we drove from Louisville to Atlanta. And I had a record collection at that time, and I stupidly put it on the back window. There's a ledge back by the window. So when we got to Atlanta, it was so hot that all the records had melted.
Geez.
So I had a nice collection, but it was no good.
They melted?
They melted. I just had one hunk of vinyl, so I throw it out. And I walked in, and I'll tell you what we did is me and this guy, I forget his name, he was a good trombone player. I think he played for the Chicago Symphony or something. But anyway, we would stick together. We would go to PX together. We'd go lunch together, and we wouldn't really mingle with the other guys. It made a good lesson for me because eventually we got together, and we said to them, we came in here new, and we were distanced from you. And they said, well, we didn't come up to you because we were waiting for you to come up to us. So that we were out like that. And then my best friend in the Third Army band was Norman Bernstein. He was a little Jewish guy, a little chubby guy who went to the Philadelphia Institute of Music, which is probably one of the best music conservatories in the world, because it's all scholarship. It doesn't cost you a nickel to go there, and it's free for everyone. So worldwide they have a choice of things. And Bernie told me during basic training they would march, and the drill sergeant would say, "Bernie, getting set because he was so short, his legs were just a little bit behind the beat. And he yelled, "Bernstein, don't you have any rhythm?" Bernstein laughed and said, "I had more rhythm in my little finger than he had in his whole body." And the first sergeant of the band, and there were about 60 or 70 people in the band, was a dictator. He had staff sergeants and stuff under him, but he had his fingers in everything. Because I remember one time, I worked myself up so they made me solo saxophonist in the band because the guys had insisted that I move up in these chairs. Because when we went to the first rehearsal, I sat in the last chair, and when they heard me play, they insisted that I move up. But so then I became. His name, we used to call him Black Bart. His name was Bart something. I say call him Black Bart because he was mean he was mean to some of the guys. So I had a couple of sergeants come in and say, I was laying on my bunk, and which we did when we didn't have anything to do. We sleep in your clothes, which was not good because you don't sleep well in your clothes. But anyway, he came in. Came in and said to me, "Come on, we're moving a piano." So I said to them, "Get the hell out of here." And they left. They couldn't say anything. They couldn't report me because I was one of Black Bart's favorite players. In fact, Bernstein was also, because he was really good. He went to this Institute of Music, and he was really a good trombone player. And he was just a private. I was a corporal because I went in as a corporal. He was cleaning the latrine every morning and clean the routine, which was the toilet.
This is Bernstein.
And he wouldn't do something, so the sergeant in charge of the detail cleaning reported him to Black Bart, and Black Bart called the sergeant in. The sergeant came in and told him what happened. Said Bernie was waited outside. He told me, he said, Black Bart started screaming at this sergeant rather, because he picked on me. Bernie was one of his favorites, also because he was a good musician. So nothing ever happened to him because he didn't listen to him.
Was Black Bart black?
No.
Why was he called Black Bart?
I don't know, he was mean to some people.
Oh, mean. Okay. Hey,
And
Ben,
Bernstein.
would you turn on the outside light, please?
Bernstein.
It's
bought
right
a
under your
bought a-
jacket
I'm talking.
on the left. Sorry.
Bernstein bought a car, and he let me use it. And the only stipulation was, after I use it, that I put the oil in that I used, because he used to use a lot of oil. And it was the type of car that if you went to turn left, it would go up to the right. And we had a band. It was Third Army, so they had a review. So I played baritone saxophone, which is a big saxophone, in the jazz band, because they had one guy in there who was a fabulous flute player and saxophone player, played lead saxophone. And he was living with this woman, I forget his name, this flute player was living with this woman who had something like 6 kids. And her ex-husband came to town, and he was living with her. This flute player, when her husband came down, she threw out this flute player and let her husband back in the house.
That's it?
That's it for now.
That was the last one.
All right.